1 year ago today, 12 parents received the call that all parents feared. Tonight, we remember the victims of the Borderline bar shooting.
Families and friends gathered in the new healing garden that opened in Thousand Oaks to honor the victims and survivors of the Borderline shooting.
I'm Chris Cheshire.
And I'm Genevieve Glass.
See It Live starts now.
I'm nervous.
It has been an absolutely heartbreaking year.
Let's get this. Let's get this.
Families and friends gathered in a new healing garden that opened in Thousand Oaks today to honor the victims and survivors of the Borderline shooting.
Flowers and notes from loved ones line the bar for victims lost in last November's Borderline shooting. Today marks 1 year since the tragic shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks. 12 were killed and 18 were injured.
Tonight, we honor those victims. Annenberg Media's Becky Sweeney spoke with loved ones at the scene of the shooting.
Local residents of Thousand Oaks pay their respects to the victims of the shooting at Borderline Bar and Grill, a bar where many people, including college students, were regulars.
But I've been going since I was 18, 3 nights a week, every week. It was like the greatest place to be. I kind of like the adult Disneyland. You met so many people there and they all just became a family.
But it's now a place for people to come honor the lives lost that day. Janine Diaz de Tusta lost 2 of her best friends that night.
I have like a button with Christina's face on it that we made for her 21st birthday. I have that in my car a lot.
She, along with her mom and survivor and friend Reed Batharami, got commemorative tattoos as tribute to their friends. And beside me is a memorial with 12 rocks to remember the 12 victims that lost their lives during this tragedy. Behind them is a box where families and friends can leave notes to their loved one. Survivors like Reed are ready to move forward.
I just living my life. That's just what this last year's been. Not letting things stop me, fear stop me, none of that.
But even after a year, people affected by the tragedy are more cautious when going out to public places.
Unfortunately, that's our reality, is just to always be aware and try not to let it stop us from going places or doing things.
The owners of Borderline are still undecided about the future of the bar, but for right now, this space is for the community, still healing from an unforgettable tragedy. For Annenberg Media, I'm Becky Sweeney.
Thousand Oaks residents gathered in one space today at a healing garden dedicated to those lost at Borderline. Annenberg Media's Albert Kane talked with people who spent time in this garden this afternoon.
Family, friends, and survivors of the deadly shooting at the Borderline Grill gathered to remember those lost and celebrate the opening of the healing garden.
Our hope is that it is a lasting testament to the victims. It honors them. It honors those families that were most impacted by the events of that night. It's also an event to honor the survivors. The healing garden design was very intentional.
Survivors of the shooting are grateful for the garden.
With the healing garden being the purpose of the healing process, it has already so far has brought a lot of healing, at least towards me, kind of lifting the weight off my shoulders of the whole incident. It means so much that the community has come together.
I'm thankful that we can still be here today, living for those who can't, and that we have such a great place to remember all the lives that were lost and just grow strong as a community.
To honor the 12 victims who lost their lives in this tragic shooting last year, the memorial is giving away 2 special items. The first item is 1,000 of these oak saplings to represent the resilience of the Thousand Oaks community. The second item is a piece of granite to represent the granite that the memorial was built from. A survivor of the massacre in Las Vegas 2 years ago founded the Love Wins organization to help survivors of mass shootings.
Yeah, the city is amazing for what they've done with the survivors, and the memorial is beautiful, and it's just, I'm at a loss of words.
The memorial, just 3 miles away from the Borderline Bar and Grill, is now a permanent remembrance for all those lost in the shooting. For Annenberg Media, I'm Albert Chan.
Justin Meek was among the victims last year. He was working as a bouncer at the bar and tried to block the shooter. Today, his parents and sister shared their memories of Justin.
Heroic, kind, generous, warm, loving, caring,
empathetic. He was everybody's friend. He was that guy that everyone wanted to know. He just could bring a smile to anyone's face on any given day, even if they didn't know him.
It's remembering them, it's talking about them, all the positive things, their impact on this community, on this world. I mean, Justin was a very talented musician and a very loving, caring individual. His whole life goal was to serve and protect, and that's exactly what he did that night.
Just that he touched so many lives because of his personality and his warmth and his soul.
Don't stop talking about him. He's not a number, he's a person, and he has a name, Justin Allen Meek, and just not to forget that, and the other individuals whose lives were taken that night. It's like I've told a lot of people, you know, it's a big day, it's, you know, 1 year marker, but at the same time, you know, it's no different than yesterday or tomorrow for the families. I mean, it's the same pain we felt, you know, all through the year. Today, I mean, it's hard, but we're here together, so.
Christina Morissette was working alongside Justin last year at the Borderline Bar. Her parents waited outside the bar for 12 hours, hoping for word that their daughter was okay. But that word never came.
Oh, my necklace is, this is Christina. She's our daughter who was a hostess at Borderline. She was one of the ones lost. And of course, it just has her birth date on there. In the year the year that's passed since the shooting, I feel like I know the victims. You know, my daughter worked there, and some of the other ones that were lost were co-workers. Some of them were students. Some of them were regulars.
Christina's parents say they most remember her smile and how she always seemed to be happy.
Elena Housley was a freshman at Pepperdine University at the time of the shooting. Housley was at the Borderline that night with her residential advisor. That RA helped students escape by breaking more glass off a broken window with her bare hands to enlarge the opening and let them get away.
Someone took a bar stool and broke a window on our side of the room, and then that's how I and a few of my residents got out. And then we met up with more outside. And then it was just waiting to figure out who else was okay and getting to safety in the hospital for people that needed it. And then the next morning we found out that Elena Housley, one of my residents, had passed away. It's definitely something I think about most days. And I know one of my residents and I both had a couple injuries that left a little bit of scarring. So it's something you physically see every day. And then also, you know, when people talk about shootings they hear about on the news or are joking about, you know, gun control, it's like all things you think about just way more frequently.
Elena Housley's parents started the Elena's Voice Foundation in their daughter's memory. Her father says there's no one solution to preventing mass shootings.
It's not about gun control, it's not about background checks, it's not about mental health, it's about all of it. And it's about getting our leaders to sit down and say, like, why are 40,000 people a year dying from guns? We've chosen not to kind of go down the road of why. None of it would bring our daughter back. You know, and even with Elena's Voice, this is not to immortalize her. She will live with us forever. But if this just helps save one more life, if we can stop the upward trajectory of gun violence going on in our country, then, you know, hopefully some families will not have to endure this pain.
The foundation advocates for media to focus on the victims, not the shooters. Their mission is to inspire hope and kindness through music, education, and mental health initiatives. Last month, they hosted a benefit concert featuring country singer Michael Franti and say they plan to focus on music as a way to raise awareness for their cause.
A fallen hero from the Thousand Oaks mass shooting is being honored with a stretch of freeway. 3 miles of the 101 were renamed yesterday in honor of Sergeant Ron Healis. Healis, a sergeant with the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, ran into the line of fire at the Borderline Bar and Grill that night. He was shot and killed while bravely helping almost 250 survivors escape the massacre. Friends and family gathered at the freeway dedication ceremony to honor his sacrifice.
It's a small tribute to a larger-than-life person who did something that really, truly impacted a lot of lives. There's a lot of people who are alive today because of what he did last year. I think the best way to honor the memory of all the victims in this case is to just live our lives with purpose and meaning.
A year ago today, the Thousand Oaks community was changed forever. The sounds of gunshots, screams, and shattered glass are forever etched into the memories of the people who were there and those who live nearby.
You heard pop, 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 and heard people screaming, heard people cursing, and there was a break in the gunfire, and you heard glass breaking, and we knew something's bad. This is bad.
She grabbed me and said there was a mass shooting at the borderline, and we were there 4 nights ago.
I'm just scared that it's no longer going to be that safe place that we had growing up, that we felt we could never have to worry about anything, but it's changed.
I feel like I'm hearing echoes of Parkland, and how often does this have to happen? It's every other month.
23 folks injured, and obviously 13 lives in total lost. And it's, this is America.
It's been 7 years since the deadly shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Families of those killed started a nonprofit called Sandy Hook Promise. They just released a graphic PSA called Back to School Essentials to bring attention to the record high number of school shootings.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year. My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils too.
Have been trained on Sandy Hook Promise programs, excuse me. The organization is committed to providing programs and practices to prevent the senseless loss of life. And according to a Pew Research study, 6 in 10 California residents say gun laws should be stricter. California was one of only 2 states to score an A on the annual gun law scorecard published by the Giffords Law Center. The scorecard grades and ranks states based on strength of gun laws in an effort to prevent gun violence.
And it's likely that some survivors of the borderline shooting or any mass shooting will deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD is often associated with people in the military, but it can happen to anyone who experiences trauma.
One of the common symptoms you see around gun violence is folks having this extreme belief that there's no place safe to be. So you'll see them not going to certain places that remind them of the event, avoiding large crowds, for example, if it happened in a crowded place, them feeling jittery or very, very hyper anxious when they're in situations like that. So these are very common and normal reactions to have when you've been in a very dangerous place where someone has been seriously injured or killed.
Professor Castro says the more we talk about how to deal with PTSD and its symptoms, the easier it will be for those affected to get help.
Even journalists covering horrific events like the borderline shooting can be affected emotionally. A USC alum, Dawn Megley, is a reporter in the Thousand Oaks area. She says the traumatic event changed her life forever.
It has been an absolutely heartbreaking year because I've got 3 kids myself, and so the loss for every single family that I spoke to really kind of hit home. Because especially as a parent, to talk to other parents who have lost their children in such an unexpected and violent way really requires looking your greatest nightmare in the face. It's just been a lot of crying, and it's something that never stops being sad, and it's something that never goes away, and it's something that you just live with day in and day out. And the past couple of weeks have been particularly difficult for me because I didn't realize it, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I think I had this magical thinking that if I wrote enough about these victims and if I made the stories moving enough and touching enough, that it might somehow bring them back. And so the past couple of weeks, I think I've finally been coming to terms that they're not coming back, and that it's not going to get better, and it's not going to go away. And I just need to come to terms with the fact that whatever I have done, it needs to be enough. And I just need to turn the page to a new chapter where it's not always looking back, but it's looking forward now.
You know, Dawn's story and kind of how it's affected her is kind of it's a stark reminder of how journalists are people too, and they get involved with this, and it's just so tough for them.
Absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about earlier, how we've been feeling covering this just today. We can only imagine, the families and the friends, and we feel this so deeply, so can only imagine how they are feeling tonight.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching See It Live. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Chris Cheshire.
And I'm Genevieve Glass. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com.